Everybody wave.
Animal adoption centers tend to be prominent across the United States and tend to be swarmed with animals. Have you ever considered adoption? My name is Trinity, and today I'm going to be informing you on why animal breeding should be limited at a legal level. By taking in what I'm going to be telling you today, you should feel more confident in your decision to adopt your next animal rather than buying from a breeder. I've been a volunteer for over 2 years now from a rescue organization out in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, known as Forever Yours Fur Sisters Rescue, in which both my family and I have been able to foster several dogs until they found their forever home. It was a very eye-opening experience for both me and my family, and it has pushed me to favor adoption methods over buying from a breeder. Besides my personal experience, I've also been able to research this topic very thoroughly and have discovered that the advantages of adoption outweigh the disadvantages of adoption. Today we're going to be covering the main problem, which is that overpopulation in shelters leads to euthanasia within animals such as cats and dogs. Secondly, we're going to be talking about a solution, which mine is to implement spay and neuter in state and local levels. Thirdly, we're going to be talking about the future, what the future would look like if my solution was implemented. So now we're going to start with the problem. The problem is that overcrowding leads to euthanization within animal shelters. Euthanasia is the process of injecting a very powerful fluid into the bloodstream that halts the functions of both the brain and the heart within animals in just a few short minutes. Although this method of basically killing animals is painless, it is also very unnecessary in a sense, because the only reason that these animals are put to sleep is just because they're taking up too much space because the shelters are overcrowded, like I said earlier. Our causeforpaws.com states that 4,100 cats and dogs are put down daily within shelters. And this is not only an issue within the United States, but globally as well. But today we're just going to focus on the issue within the United States and what needs to be changed for this to be no longer an issue. A big issue that why overpopulation is such a large issue is that the number of homeless pets far outweighs the number of welcoming families. Many people also think that taking their unwanted pets into shelters is the right thing to do, but many times overlook what their animals will encounter as soon as they enter the shelters. PETA states that half of the animals in shelters end up euthanized because of space issues. If you guys have ever been to an animal shelter, you see that most every single crate in there is filled with a dog or two. And many times these animals, if they're in there for too long, according to the shelter standards, they will be euthanized, like I stated earlier. And many of these animals that are euthanized usually have no health or behavioral issues that cause them to be unadoptable. At the rate that it's going right now, 1,496,500 cats and dogs will be put down on an annual basis. Now that we've talked about the problem, let's implement a solution. Legal action needs to be taken in order to limit the number of animal overpopulation that is happening within the United States. American Veterinary Medical Association states that no state laws requiring pet owners to alter their animals are currently intact, and this needs to be changed. Natural breeding rates in the wild are obvious. Cats and dogs that are out in the wild that aren't even in shelters have natural breeding rights because they aren't fixed, and they're going to produce more dogs, more kittens, anything like that, any animal, and it's going to create more homeless pets until there's a solution implemented. So if action is taken, the number of homeless pets will decrease, and overpopulation will no longer be an issue. ASPCA states that the vet community supports the importance of safe, accessible spay and neuter programs, and says it's actually the best way of preventing overpopulation, and it's the only humane method to population control. So what if you go to an animal shelter and don't necessarily find an animal that suits your needs? There's always alternatives. There are several organizations and shelter programs that take in certain breeds such as Huskies, German Shepherds, and Boxers, breeds that you're not necessarily going to find more often in these shelters. And the process is a little bit more complicated, and it takes more interviewing and stuff like that to make sure that they're going to go to the right home, but that's much better than buying from a breeder. It's still rescuing. So now that we've talked about a solution, let's talk about what the future would look like if this solution was implemented. Without change, the rate of animal overpopulation will grow and grow and grow until there's way too many dogs and cats within our country. So if change is taken, the world will look much, much happier and cleaner and healthier. Not only will the animals be healthier and happier, humans will be too. I don't know if you guys have ever adopted an animal, but it's a very life-changing experience, as it feels as that you have gained a furry friend into your family and you've also helped save a life. Within the next 10 to 20 years, the euthanasia rate will also decrease within shelters, changing the lives for those animals that are in there. There are several no-kill shelters that are around, but they're not as prominent as you may think. UF VetMed peer-reviewed article states that talks about the increasing speed and number of adoptions by waiving the adoption fees reduces shelter euthanasia. And so basically what they were saying in the article is that in certain shelters, like if you've ever been to the ones that happen on the weekend at Petco and stuff, sometimes they waive the adoption fees to lure more people in so that these animals have a second chance at life. I actually have a friend that runs a shelter, like temporary foster out of her home, in which she takes in pets that her mom and her find or come across, and that she actually finds a new home for them on her own. So she's shining a light into the human-animal bond in a separate way. So now that we've talked about the problem, solution, and what the future would look like, we can now conclude. You need to take matters into your own hands, and the way you can do this is by adopting your next animal and spaying or neutering your current animals. RedRover.com states that puppies sold in stores often come from inhumane puppy mills, so you're saving a life, lessening overcrowding, and not supporting puppy mills. And over time, this will cause the puppy mills to be shut down, and overpopulation will also decrease in that way. With the increasing puppy mills, with decreasing the amount of animals that you're buying from breeders, puppy mills will shortly be shut down or put in the past, because the amount of profit that these puppy mills owners are taking in will be plummeted. Thank you guys for listening. Do you guys have any questions?
What's a puppy mill?
A puppy mill is basically I would say most of them are inhumane because breeders don't necessarily treat their mom and dad, their parent dogs, correctly. So the dogs are basically not treated the way they should be treated. So they're basically the only way that they're producing money is by overbreeding their dogs, which is mistreating them, but they're also creating profit from selling the puppies.
Do you know what type of behavioral tests they give the dogs that are?
Basically they just keep them quarantined for a few days before they put them up as adoptable, to make sure that they're able to adjust with families and stuff like that. So it's basically just they're watching them, making sure that they're going to be able to be around people and around other dogs and around other animals and stuff like that. Thank you guys.